Gary Glunt joins us this morning. Gary, good to see you.
Good to see you too, Luke.
Man, I'll tell you, since we've been having these conversations, I think almost every day something enters my view where I go, that's interesting. Gary talked about that. Or I wonder if Gary would think about that. So it's having an effect on me, Gary.
Well, that's, my goal is I hope we can help as many people as possible, to understand, the basics, and it's a big topic. There's a lot of stuff, but we don't have to make it rocket science, right?
Yeah.
And a lot of folks want to make it rocket science, but it's not, and so, again, the more we can do to help people, the better.
So let's recap a little bit, because I've been hearing a lot of conversations now that, tax day is over. People are, I'm getting my tax return, can't wait to get it. I'm going to do this. And I'm thinking, there's other things you could do. So let's kind of recap what we talked about last time you were on.
Right.
And we'll go from there.
All right. So a quick little recap. So folks are getting their tax returns back. And now you got some choices that you can do with this money, hopefully, right? And we talked about, about doing a little combo with our money and making our money work for us. So, we said, well, let's put some of it into an interest-bearing account of some kind, and then have a little side gig of some kind, and that where we can add money to that, at least until we know what we really want to do with it, versus just spending it, because once you spend it, it's gone, and there's once you learn how money works, there's a point where you go, well, if I spend this money, I'm going to lose this opportunity over here. And now you don't spend as frequently, and you're like, oh, well, I can see what this is doing for me, right? So
can I say, this may be stupid, but does it kind of turn into something fun for somebody? And here's what I mean by that. When they get money and they buy something, it's that like instant gratification, right?
Yes.
But that can also apply to investments. When you see what it's doing for you, then it becomes challenging. It becomes sort of exciting. And
Absolutely.
You're going, hey, what if I do this, or what if I leave it here? So
Absolutely.
it can swing the other way.
And I think it does. And everything from just saying, hey, man, I can do this and I can do that, and this is a better opportunity, to being able to take advantage of other opportunities. And you look at that and you go, man, I can't believe I just spent this on nothing. And the other thing that is kind of a thing that I say, because I heard it from what was the name of the book? Let's see. One of my favorite books, Rich Dad Poor Dad. Okay, and in it said, that make money work for you. Right? Okay. So what the old saying is, poor people work for their money, rich people, money works for them. And it's true. We're just not taught about finance, and I'm so glad, and I hope that our schools do it justice, right? And that, because Pennsylvania is now, like we said before, mandated that financial education must be in every high school in Pennsylvania, and that it has to be a standalone class. And I just hope that these folks do it justice, right? But there's fewer and fewer business teachers. When I taught my last 15 years, I didn't even have a business teaching student.
Wow.
And there were only 2 schools in Pennsylvania that I knew did the business education certificate, and Mercyhurst was one of them, and now they don't do it. So the only other one I know is IUP.
Well, I'm going to keep on the trend of asking you something stupid. Was there sort of not a stigma, but you had VOTEC kids, you had business kids. This is when I went. Mm-hmm. The reality is, everybody needs like all of that. Like everybody should be exposed to all of this. And at the time, I'm looking back thinking business, it seemed like that was for kids that wanted to do like accounting. And it's like, well, no, there's more to it than that. There's a lot more to it than that.
Right. There is. But again, well, I grew up same time you did, right? And, I didn't, no one ever really talked to me about what Votech was. Okay. And I know we're getting off subject a little bit here, but if I'd have known what Votech was, I probably would have went to Votech, right? Because I enjoy that stuff. I enjoy making things and doing things, and I've always enjoyed that. You get that. You get in education, and I don't want to get on the education topic because we talk about that all day. It's too many times goes with the whims of what's happening politically, right? I know schools that got rid of their wood shops and their power shops. Utterly ridiculous, right? I mean, the reason I say that is, one, you have those kids that love that too. Everybody should know a little bit about that, right?
Right.
I mean, even if you're not a mechanic, don't want to be a mechanic, right? Boy, I hate when I go to the mechanic shop and they say, "Hey, you need this," and you're like, "Boy, do I really need that?" And especially when they put the price tag on it, and so, I wish we would just look at things in the aggregate, right? Where we can do all these different things. You can have financial education. You can have, Votech education. You can have college education.
Yeah.
And you could do it together.
Yeah.
But
you need to learn how to balance a checkbook, how to write a check. You need
absolutely
all this. I mean, we're talking basic things.
Right. And even more than that, we need to understand how it works. Right? And that you don't have to know everything about it, but you need to understand how it works. Now, I'm going to go off script here a little bit, right? But so, for instance, nobody tells you in life that there's certain ages that matter, right? And they don't tell you why they matter. So, example, age 55, right? Okay, so age 55, we're talking about retirement here, right? So, one of the keys about retirement is the sooner you get started on it, the better it is. Right? And you can wait too long and be in real trouble. Right? And okay, so, and we'll take a look at that with a chart that we have in our conversation here. But seriously, like if nobody thinks about it when they're 14, but when you're 14 and you can start working, if you do that, oh my gosh, can you set yourself up for a fantastic retirement, right? And before retirement. Now, why is 55 an issue? Because they changed the rule that now you can take money out of your 401k or your 403b, all right? For those 401ks are, I believe, for for-profit companies, where 403bs are for nonprofit companies like schools and stuff like that. And you can start withdrawing money without a penalty if you leave it in the 401k or the 403b at your workplace. And so that's a new rule, right? So now if you're thinking about retiring early, hey, I got another piece of my puzzle here, right? Then 62 is another age, right? Because that's when you can start collecting Social Security, okay? Then 65 is kind of a number to think about, but 70 for most people is full retirement for Social Security, right? So, so people don't say or tell you, well, you need to plan for that stuff, right? Because if you wait for 5 years before and you go, hey, I want to retire, and you haven't done anything, well, you could be in trouble. Depending on depending on where you work, how much you make, so on and so forth, right? And then early in life. So, one of the things about early in life that, if you look at it, kids from the 14 age till they either get out of high school or get out of college, all right, they're sitting pretty, and they don't know they're sitting pretty. They think they're broke, right? And with all due respect, they're the richest teenagers that have ever existed in the United States, okay? But they don't know. No one tells them about it, right? So if you can get a kid to start working and start putting a little bit of money away into retirement investments, they can retire way before the rest of us, And so, we talked about the three key factors, right? If you're going to make money through investing, which is just one part of the puzzle, okay? I'm a huge proponent of owning businesses. I'm a huge proponent of investing as maybe a silent partner in a business. if you ask me, that's where the real money's at. Okay, even better than investing. All right, but in the investing world, time, amount, and interest, right, or rate of return.
Right.
Okay, and the reason we say rate of return versus interest is some like stocks don't give you interest, right? They give you a rate of return where a savings account gives you interest, but they use that number. So if they say stocks are making 10% a year, they use that number to correlate to interest-bearing activities. So time. Who's got time on their side? Young people, right? I'm 57, and I hate to I don't get morbid here, but I don't have time on my side anymore, right? Okay. Amount, right? So kids look at amount and they think, I don't have any money. Oh my gosh. When you're 14, the only expenses you should have, I hope, is the ones you create for yourself, right? I hope you're not paying the rent. I hope you're not, paying the bills. But if you are, that's not good, okay? If you have, just an income coming in that you don't have to spend on anything but what you want to, oh, what a huge opportunity, right? And then you look at life and you go, okay, so when are the times when I'm not probably going to have money, okay? And that's one, when you're in college. You're probably not going to have a lot of money because you can't work a lot, right? Okay, and now you have some stuff that you might have to take care of, right? Now you got maybe some loans, maybe you have room and board and stuff you got to pay for.
$400 a book.
$400 a book, exactly, right? And then when you first start working, I see this so often. You get that first big paycheck, right? And you think you are rich, and you can't act like you got to not act like you're rich because you're not. Right? You get that first real big paycheck and you have to act like you are the poorest person on earth. Because if you do that, you will set yourself up nice. Right? Okay. But they don't. And I didn't do it. Right? I remember I got my first big accounting paycheck, right? And I was like, oh my gosh, this is more money than I ever seen, right? And I was an idiot. I went goofy. I had 4 vehicles, right? One person, who needs 4 vehicles? Okay. Nobody explains this in life. Like, this is how life kind of normally works, right? Okay. So anyway, all right. So, we need to do that too. We need to explain, hey, here's the times in life that are important times in life that we need to plan for. Okay. And if we don't, the option is that it doesn't turn out as well. Okay. The old forest for the tree, right? Okay, yes. I can't see the forest because I'm right here, and here's the tree. And so anyway. But with that being said, all right, let's jump back to what we can do with our money, kind of thing, right? So there are a bunch of investment opportunities out there, right? And they all have their purposes. Okay, so like, when I talk about savings accounts and checking accounts and money market accounts and CDs and that kind of thing, right? There's a purpose for those, okay? And I don't want people to think from our conversations that they're bad. They just have their purpose, right? And one of their purposes is not to make money, all right? You're not going to make money in a savings account. You're not making money in a money market account. You're not making money in CDs, okay? But that wasn't what they were meant for, right? Okay. So back to we talked about the rule of 72, right? So if you take the rule of 72, and the rule of 72 says that if you take your interest or rate of return and divide it into 72, that tells you how long it's going to take your money to double, right? So if savings accounts and checking accounts, and this makes me sick, are like under 1%, and that should not be, right? That is it. When we grew up, were they ever under 1%? No, right? So 72 divided by 1, 72 years, your money's going to double. Good luck making money like that, right? Okay. So where do you make the money at through investing, right? Okay. Well, here you go. So now we have our $1,000 or our income tax return, correct? Okay. And you make money in mutual funds, right? That's where we go to, we make money mutual funds, we make money stocks, we make money owning businesses, right? Junk bonds, different stuff that has more of a risk, okay? And there's the trade-off, right? Okay? Here's your trade-off. That if I stay safe, I usually don't make a ton of interest or rate of return. If I get a little bit more risky of losing my money, okay, then I get a better return, okay? And so these things give you a little better return, and maybe a lot better return, but there's risk of losing your money, okay? Yeah. Now, but so, and I want to state that because you can. I mean, the stock market right now, right? Okay, a lot of people lost a lot of money, right? Okay, but the more you learn about how it works, time, right? Time is a key factor, right? If you look at stock market in the short aggregate, okay, man, it's hard. If you don't know what you're doing, right? If you're not somebody who watches it every day and you have a plan and you are a broker and you're a financial manager, right? If you're not that person, man, it's about as risky as you can get playing the stock market in the short term. Okay. Now, if you're not that person, and I'm not that person, like I don't sit there and watch the stock market every day, but if you look at how it works and I look at time, right? There's an old thing called safety in numbers, right? Yep. Okay. So, and that's the whole concept of a mutual fund, right? Yeah. So the words mutual and fund. Mutual meaning we get a bunch of people together and put our money together and we invest it into funds, okay, into something, right? And they can invest into anything, right? They don't have to just be stocks that they invest in. They can invest in bonds. They can invest in CDs. They can invest in money markets, right? And whatever you do. But so let's say this, okay? Number one, I want to put this out there, all right? When I talk about this, you should never use money that you absolutely need to invest in the stock market, all right? Golden rule is use the money that you don't need, all right? And people say, well, geez, I need all my money, okay? Well, then if that's the case, don't go out there and be buying pop, right? Yeah. That's, what is it? An iced tea at McDonald's is $2.19 for an iced tea, right? Don't be buying, that $1,000 cell phone. So if every bit of money you need, there's always a little bit that you don't need that you're going to waste on something, right? Let's change that, right? So that $1,000 you got back from the IRS, okay? So, if you blow it, it's gone, okay? Apparently you didn't need it, okay? All right, now let's take a look, all right? So you got the chart popped up there, right? So on the top are some scenarios, okay? And you can make whatever scenario up you want, okay? And this is nothing that's hard to do. I go to Google, right, or whatever, and Google compound interest calculator, all right? And then start punching your numbers in, and it'll tell you what you're going to make, okay? So up top, all right, is us being safe, all right? So I'm putting it into a 4% account, okay? And here's the good news. They're starting to come back around.
Yeah.
Right? Okay, so you can now get some 4%, all right? And there was always a golden rule was this. If you can get money for less than 4%, we called it free money, all right? Because you could always invest it in something else that could get you more money, okay? So 4% was the kind of the go-to back in the day. But what happened, and I get why it happened, but our economy forced us into the stock market, okay? Because you couldn't get a 4% savings account anymore. You couldn't get a 4% CD for the last, I don't know how many years, 10, 15, 20 years, because interest rates have been so low, okay? And so the only place you could go to make money was the stock market. So we went to the stock market, right? And we went to the stock market, most of us in mutual funds, all right? Now, so if you look at the top part, okay, and there's nothing wrong with this, okay? So I took my $1,000 return I got from the IRS, threw it into a 4% account, and I said, you know what? I can put $150 a month. This is the green part, and I can take $150 a month into a 4% account, and this is what I would have over time. No risk. I am going to get that. Okay? I'm in my 4% account. I'm not worried about losing my money. Okay? So now, you say, all right, let's say now I want to make it go faster, right? So our three key factors: time, amount, and interest. So interest isn't going to change. Time is what we know we got, right? And so our effect that we can do is we can amount. So now we do a side gig, right? So I think I said about donating plasma, right? My buddy makes $500 a month donating plasma in Erie, So, all right, so I pretended like I was him, okay? And I didn't even put all 500 in, right? I said, you know what? Let's put 350 of that in. Let's make our deposit 500 now a month, okay? And now, you bump up your numbers significantly, okay? And now, you know what? You're like, oh, you know what? Okay, so I'm donating plasma. Well, what if I can add some more money into that? Okay, well, what can I do? What else can I do, right? Well, I got a buddy who collects metal and takes it into the metal shop, right? So now I donate plasma or I think he has to do twice a month, right? Okay, yeah. And now I collect scrap and I take it into and now I got my other, $500. Okay, and now being safe, if I'm 30, let's see, if I'm a young kid, I just started my job, and let's say I'm 25, at 55, I'm sitting on $700,000.
Wow.
And that's being safe, right? So now let's move to the next step. Let's say, all right, you know what? I want to make more return, right? So in our first scenario, let me do some quick math here. 72 divided by 4. What are we looking at here? Looking at 20. What is it? 19. Let me do some quick math here. I can't do it in my head. So 72 divided by 4. All right, 18. Okay. So your money's going to double every 18 years in that 4% account. All right. So now I'm going to go to a mutual fund. Okay. All right. And then there's all different types of mutual funds, okay? So I picked one called the Vanguard 500 Index, okay? And I like this fund. I'm not saying go get it, but I like it, all right? And it has averaged 11% since, I believe, either 67 or 76.
Wow.
Okay? And one of the things about trying to, figure out, what to invest in, time. So here's a fund that's been through the crap, right? It's been through the Reagan recession, right? It's been through the 2008 housing crisis, right? It's been through the bad stuff, all right? So it knows how to handle the bad stuff, apparently, okay? So I look at it and I go, all right, so it's averaging 11% a year, okay? So now if I take 72 and I divide that by 11, my money's doubling every 6.5 years. I'm making money.
Yes, you are.
You with me?
Yeah.
All right. So now we're making money. Okay. Now, are there going to be bad years? Oh, yeah. If you got it right now, I guarantee it's not doing good right now. All right. Because the Vanguard 500 follows the top 500 stocks in the stock market. And if the stock market isn't doing good, it ain't doing good. Right. So right now it's taking a hit. All right. And so that's why there's always a risk of losing your money. Okay. But again, you have to plan, right? Okay. So one of my golden rules in planning is this: when I'm within a 15-year period of needing my money, okay, I now want to move that money. I want to get that out of this risky stuff, and I want to slide it into something that isn't risky. Okay. So looking here back to our same scenario, okay, that just with the $150, okay, a month, all right, with my $1,000 tax return in there, in 30 years, I have now accomplished what I would have accomplished with $500 a month. okay, at the 4%. All right, now I bounce over, I go donate some plasma, in 30, I'm $1 million. So how many kids, if they're 24 years old, right, and you say, all right, when you are 54, you're going to have $1 million. Who's saying no? I hope nobody, right? I hope nobody, okay? Now, again, you got it. You can't, if you watch it every day, no, right? You got to sit and you got to let it ride. And you let it ride till you are happy with the amount of money that you have. And then you move it to where the safety is, right? So now you move it, instead of a mutual fund invest in stocks, we slide it over to a mutual fund and invest in savings accounts, CDs, money markets. You with me?
Yeah.
Okay. So that's investing. That's where we make money, right? And is it, people say, oh, can you get 10%? The answer is, yeah, you can get 10%. Okay. You just have to look for it. Okay. And again, it's risky, right? And by risky, I mean you can lose your money. So you put money into it that you don't worry about, right? That you don't care, that you're going to blow anyway. All right. And so
it's planting seeds, Gary. You're planting seeds.
I hope we're planting some seeds here, right?
Yeah.
But that's like, mutual funds is a topic in itself. That again, it's not all that complicated. Okay. But if you don't know about it, then it looks really complicated, right? Okay.
Well, doing a good job breaking it down. Greatly appreciate it. We'll have to continue.
I hope so.
Yeah. Gary, good to see you.
Nice to see you too, Luke.
Thanks.
Have a good day, everybody.